Hello, and thank you for joining us on this episode of Trailblazers. Today with us, we have Ashley Russo. And Ashley, I'm going to read directly from your bio because it encapsulates all that you are and all that you do. Ashley Russo is the CEO at MagnaPlate, the world's leading manufacturer of engineered coating solutions. In addition to her career in manufacturing, she's a 7-time Emmy Award-winning executive producer as the owner of ASR Media. Deeply committed to her community, Ashley serves on the boards of the Girl Scouts of Eastern PA, the Children's Home of Easton, the Greater Lehigh Valley Chamber of Commerce, and Hospital Central Services, Inc. and affiliates. She also serves the American Heart Association as the Heartball Chair, and she is an active committee member for organizations like the Wildland Conservancy, Take the Lead of the Lehigh Valley and Women United. She is a member of the Tugboat Institute and the United Way of the Greater Lehigh Valley's Tocqueville Society, and she has been honored with numerous leadership awards, including the United Way's Community Builder, Philanthropist of the Year from Women United, and Greater Lehigh Valley Chamber of Commerce's Volunteer of the Year. Ashley holds a bachelor's degree in journalism from New York University, and she began her career as a producer for the NBC Today Show. She worked with Bloomberg LP and the Weather Channel before becoming an independent producer and media consultant for national publications like Cooks Illustrated and Prevention Magazine. Wow. Sleep much?
You sound so busy.
I know. You are a busy girl. I see you almost at every event I attend, and I know what that takes from my perspective, so I can imagine you're probably doing double what I'm doing, but interesting. But Ashley, take us back, right? I mean, you have so much that you've done thus far. Take us back, if you will, and share with us how you got your start. And by start, I mean, what inspired your career aspirations and achievements? Walk us through that, if you will.
Sure. So for me, I was really a talkative kid. I asked a lot of questions, just naturally curious and inquisitive. I was never fearful of speaking with adults. And so my mother always likes to say that I found a career that was perfect for a nosy kid. And really what happened was when I was in high school, I took an English course that required us to not only do writing, but also give presentations on books we had read and themes that we were given. And my sophomore year teacher said to me, if you could learn to write the way you speak, you could really do something with this. And at the time, the thought was print journalism. So I started dictating my papers into an old-fashioned little tape recorder because I could speak extemporaneously fairly well and get my thoughts out pretty clearly, and then I could clean up a paper. And that really led to me starting to write for the school newspaper and eventually becoming the editor and getting the bug for journalism and storytelling. So I'm from New Jersey. It wasn't a big stretch to go to NYU, but at the same time, it was a big jump, completely
Great
different.
School, yeah.
Culturally and just living in the city. But I knew I wanted to be in a city and where news and life was happening. Mm-hmm. I wanted the opportunity to intern and work while I went to school, which I was able to really successfully do. So when I got to NYU, I ended up joining the radio station, and my start was really in radio. So I ended up becoming the news director, had multiple shows, went out and got all kinds of packages and did everything from breaking news to restaurant reviews in the city, which was really neat and gave me great experience. And what I found was, if I asked, the answer was almost always yes. And so that just kind of became my mantra, was to speak up and
ask for it.
Yeah. And say, can I go do this? And sometimes the answer was not right now, but it would plant a seed that I wanted to try something. And I found a lot of amazing mentors along the way. My news director, her name's Katie Chen Mazzara. She's still a dear friend of mine, and she was the first person who I used to bug for stuff, and she would find a way to give me the experience, and that led to my internships at Bloomberg, and I worked in PR for a while. Sometimes things are just luck. I worked for a national PR firm that was launching a little company you might have heard of called 1-800-Flowers.
Oh, wow.
And they had someone go out on maternity leave, and even though I was part-time and in college, I ended up being one of the leads on the project, reporting directly to the vice president. And so that kind of experience where you just step up, lean in, and do it, there's just nothing else to replace that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked about is it Amy Chen Mazzari? You said, right?
Katie. Yeah.
Katie. Sorry. From that perspective, I mean, was she probably the most instrumental, affording you the opportunity to kind of, be bold, be brave, and take it by the.
Yeah, I mean, I think that originally, I would say I credit my mother and my grandmother. My grandmother has a master's degree that she got in the 1940s from Columbia University. So strong, independent woman, child of immigrants. My mom was a CEO of our family business before I was. And what I credit is my parents giving me not only strong female role models, but saying, do what you want to do. Follow what you want to do. And there wasn't really as much pressure on pick a major or a career so much as follow where your interests lie, and that will lead you to find something great. And it really did. And I don't know that everyone gets that level of support. So I think it started with that at home.
Especially when you have a family business, right?
Exactly.
Because there's an expectation.
I was really lucky. There was no pressure of go study business or accounting or something and come into or metallurgy. I got to sophomore year honors chemistry, and that's as far as my science. Here I am running this business.
Likewise.
But then I was really lucky. Katie was incredible because she's really brilliantly smart and very organized, and she was able to help me take my passion and kind of put it in a structured form and understand the importance of process and understand the importance of doing your homework and your research prior to telling a story. So I really learned a lot of skills from her. I think she helped kind of temper me a little bit and put a framework around my excitement for the field. And then when I went on, I worked for an amazing series of executive producers who were all women. It was the Weekend Today show at the time. It's morphed a little bit, but we had an awesome crew, a lot of women. I would pitch story ideas all the time, and people may not know that the producers are actually the ones generally responsible for that.
Yeah.
So you're constantly doing research, trying to find stories, and then you have to pitch it all the way up to the executive producer, and then you've got to paint the vision of how you're going to tell that story and get permission to do the elements and have the crew and the editors and all these things that are necessary to make it come to life on live television. And again, the answer wasn't always yes, but by asking, I was planting seeds of opportunity for myself. So they knew I was ready to go at a moment's notice. And I learned a lot from that. I had a lot of really strong female mentors along the way.
And so how have the mentors and people within your network influenced your career to make a lasting impact that really changed things for you? Now, I'm not just saying, from the executive producer, bringing your ideas to the executive producer, but to start your own company, to become an entrepreneur, or in your words, a serial entrepreneur. How did that kind of take shape for you to kind of make that leap and say, not only am I doing this, not only do I want to do this, but I'm going to do this on my own, and I'm going to do it my way?
I think for me, the reason you do it, having a really strong why behind you're doing whatever you're doing, is really important. Often when people are unhappy, it's in their job, I think it's quick to jump to how much money you're making or how much time you have off, or a variety of sort of reasons, and they can be valid for sure. But if you have a strong why and you love the purpose of what you're doing, I think you can overcome the other things. And so for me, my why was really driven by the desire to tell stories that had meaning and share good news of the people around me. I always loved that piece. I didn't love the breaking news. I didn't love the sort of darker stories that, of course, we have to tell, but it just wasn't where my heart was. And so I was really inspired when I moved to the Lehigh Valley. I spent my first 7 years here as a volunteer in the community, and I kept meeting more and more people who had a heart for our community. It's such a special and unique place.
It is.
And through that, I got the opportunity through St. Luke's to build this TV show called The Peak TV, which we've had on the air for 12 years and hundreds of episodes. And it all came from the why of wanting to share. I just believe everyone has a story to tell, and everyone deserves the dignity of telling that story. And if we can tell stories that have collective impact, then we can start to move the needle and make changes. And it's been awesome, honestly, and just a gift to me to be able to do that along the way. And then also empower other people, right? Like you build a business and it starts to become necessity is the mother of invention. You just do it.
Yeah.
But then it starts to take on meaning because you hire more people and those people go out and use their income to help stimulate the economy and buy homes. And, people have had children. And the ripple effect is big. And that's, you think a lot about that. Maybe not in the beginning, but certainly as it's progressed, you think a lot more about that.
You have your family business that you have a C-suite position with now at MagnaPlate. What have you learned working in a family business and navigating that dynamic? How does pressure, accountability, planning, succession planning, all of that play into that?
Oh, it's a lot. I mean, I'm really lucky because my grandparents started the business in 1952. We grew up going on our school holidays and stuffing marketing materials in envelopes and fighting over who got to shred the paper. That was the biggie. I did my 8th grade science project on what we do, which is metal coatings. So it's a industrial strength, non-stick type coatings. Mm-hmm. And I learned a lot along the way, and then I didn't really realize how much I was learning by osmosis because my mother and stepfather ended up starting to run the company in the 1990s. And so our school holidays and our dinner conversation were often what was going on at MagnaPlate. What I learned through that was that people-first mentality. I just always heard the stories of the people in the business and what they were going through, good, bad, mm-hmm. challenges, how the family could help. And running a family company is a lot different, I think, than running a regular business. And I like to think of ASR Media as the founder of a family company that I hope goes on beyond me. And I say that because I try to lead with the same mentality around people first. And that's really what MagnaPlate has taught me. The biggest challenge for me was coming in 6 months basically before COVID, shutting down a factory in New Jersey, consolidating our operations down into Texas, and then earning people's trust because here I knew a lot of people at the business. I'd been on the board. Like I said, I had come in to work throughout the years and visit with people. So I had a rapport, but now all of a sudden I was asking them to trust me as a leader. And that's difficult. And I think in a family business, it's often viewed as something that's like an entitlement that you were handed this thing.
Right.
And in some ways that's true. But it doesn't, in a lot of ways, it's like being the child of the teacher of the class.
Right.
Right? Like you have to work harder than everybody in the class because your mom's the teacher.
Yeah.
And so I think I had that mentality of I'm going to work harder, show up in a meaningful way for people, and then really try to, I would say, modernize the culture. So take that same concept of making sure that people's lives are enriched in other ways and modernizing that and having stuff in place that made it more fun to come to work. And so that's just been our goal. It is also what keeps me up at night. I think when you say about 100 people, you think about their families and their retirement plans and their health insurance, and so many things happen, and people in a personal way.
Right.
You're not a number. 100 sounds like a lot, but in the scheme of things, they're small companies.
Mm-hmm.
I know the names of everybody's children. I know what sports they play. I know when someone's sick, and not just like seriously ill. Someone got the flu.
Yeah.
And so being very in touch with each person's individual journey is very important to me. And I think that's how I earned the trust of the team at the family business at MagnaPlate to realize I wasn't, just this kid coming in and doing this job because I had the connection to the family.
And, when you make a decision, right, everybody knows who you are, but you're also affecting the lives of every single one of those individuals. So when you think about it, you're accountable, in different ways that sometimes in a business that's maybe not family owned like that, it's a little bit of a different dynamic, I imagine.
Very few people, myself included, are showing up to get a paycheck. Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is, very few people are coming in, doing whatever the job is and going home and never thinking about it again. I think when you're a small company, everybody wears a lot of hats, and because you get to know each other personally and because you get to know the customers personally in both businesses, it really affects you and your team in a way that is important to pay attention to. And so I want people, like I said earlier, to take time off and to go home, and I don't want them waking up at 3 a.m. thinking about something at work. That being said, I do want them waking up and thinking about, hey, I wonder how so-and-so's feeling, or thinking about what that person went through and maybe making an outreach to connect with their coworker. And so I want people to have it be more than just showing up as a number, getting a paycheck.
What do you feel has been the greatest lesson you've learned along the way?
The greatest lesson I've learned along the way is to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And we hear it all the time, right? Like working moms in particular. If you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of everybody else. And we say it, but I think really incorporating it and not feeling badly about it has been huge for me.
Self-care is huge. Yes.
It is, and it's bigger than just saying like, oh, I'm going to work out or book my nails or something like that. I think it's a really important state of mind. And one of the things I had to do was give myself permission to not be in the weeds and not be so busy. I had to really get in touch with the fact that one of the ways I was feeling a sense of accomplishment was by doing and doing a lot. And because I enjoy what I do, I didn't realize the toll that could take. It also prohibits you from creating opportunity around you.
Right.
If you're always the one doing it, how do other people learn and advance their own careers? So
that's a good point.
Yeah, so last year naming Katie Santana as the president of ASR Media, Katie was my first employee. Katie's like family to me. Her children, her husband, they're family to me.
Right.
But to watch her elevate her career over more than a dozen years to now be the president and have her own that title has been so rewarding for me, and she's done such an awesome job with it, and she's really owned it. And she's had to stretch herself. She's had to really stretch herself to do this role, and she does it so beautifully. But that would never have been possible if I hadn't first gotten out of the way.
Yeah.
And then second, really worked with her and coached her and continued to connect with her. And now she's doing that with other people, like our vice presidents, and those vice presidents are doing that with the leads. And so having that structure in place is important. And then at the family business, it's that concept of succession planning. I think we tend to hold things close. We tend to be siloed. I want 3 people to know how to do every job. And so we've got that constantly going on at both ASR and MagnaPlate. There's a lot of cross-training and shadowing each other and practicing something and the backup for the backup, not only for when you're on vacation, but should something happen, or perhaps we find out somebody we had no idea would be really good at something, because they got that opportunity. So my greatest lesson has been to take care of myself and be okay with not being the lead on everything.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, honestly, it's kind of a way to reward yourself for doing a good job.
It is, but I totally understand why people have trouble retiring at some point, because it becomes a lot of your identity and your self-identity, not just how the community identifies you or your employees identify, but how you identify about yourself is often in that role. And if you're not filling every moment, you feel guilty. Right. You feel badly, like maybe I'm not supposed. So that's been a real journey for me. I am working on the phrase consistency over intensity. That's my 2025 mantra. So being really consistent with behaviors, really thoughtful with behaviors, and not necessarily operating at an intense level, right? Not always in 5th gear, being okay being in 2nd or 3rd gear. And I'm getting there. I'm doing pretty well with it.
Well, I love that. Consistency over intensity. You heard it here first, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.